Be'ezrat Hashem. So we continue. We are Pasuk Dalet. Perek Chet, Pasuk Dalet. Alechem ishim ekra. To you, men, I call. Ve'koli el bnei Adam, and my voice is to mankind. So we're going to need the second pasuk just as a good. Havinu petaim orma, simple men, simple people. And Havinu orma, learn how to be shrewd, how to be shrewd. Uksilim, Havinu lev, and the ksil, the dullard, Havinu led, learn the heart, understand the heart. That's the literal, okay, translation. Okay. So, in Pasuk Dalet, the Gaon continues in the development of the revelation of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Chokhmah and through the Binah, like he explained in Pasuk, the Psukim in the beginning of the Perek, right? Essentially, Pasuk Bet and Gimel. And now he will introduce the Da'at. We spoke about the Binah in last shiur. And now we will address the Da'at and how the Da'at forms itself and bonds and connects with, on one end, the Chokhmah and the Binah, but also with what's under it, what it gives the Da'at to. So, and he breaks this pasuk into two portions. One portion is the actual definition of the Da'at, and the second portion of the bi'ur of the pasuk is referring to the difference there is between Ish and Adam. Why in the beginning of the pasuk he refers to Ish, and at the end of the pasuk he refers to Adam. And finally tries to put all this together and explain how the flow of the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes from the Da'at down to the Sirot. So this pasuk happens to be a very technical and Kabbalistic explanation of the Gaon, and quite intricate. So we're gonna break the shiur, or at least into two. And first, like the Gaon does, introduce the concept of Da'at, and after that we'll move on. The Gaon refers to that first part of the pasuk, to a Zohar in Idra Zuta. The Zohar the Zohar tells us that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, just to give you a bit of a flavor before the shock. The Zohar tells us that Rabbi Shimon says in the Zohar that it's known that when we leave this world and we enter the Bet HaMidrash of Shamayim, we enter the Olam Haba, we will be asked some questions about what we've learned and what we were mehadesh. And it's important that we should have specific hidushim that we reveal, okay, in every aspect, in pshat, in remez, in drash, in sod, that we will reveal to the Pamalia de Eshel Mala, to the Beta Midrash in Olam Haba. Therefore, Rabbi Shimon had a hidush that he never wanted to share, and that's the hidush we will learn now, because it was so close to his heart and so deep that he felt this is a hidush I want to keep when I go to Olam Haba, and this is what I'm going to say in Shamayim. When they're going to tell me, Rabbi Shimon, please come and tell in front of everyone what chidush did you make in this world? Did you mechadesh? That's the chidush you wanted to make mechadesh. But he says, what can I do? That mina shamayim, I am guided that it seems like I need to say this hidush today. So he reveals to us the hidush. Okay, that's the introduction to the hidush in the Zohar Kadosh. Okay, so okay. We have to know that there are let me take a step back. In the word bina, if you pay attention, the word of bina has in it the yud, has a he, and has the word ben. Right? Bina, you're right. Bet yud nun he. The yud we know is chokhmah. The he represents the bina, and the bet and the nun represent ben, which is what the bina gives, which is essentially the birth of the da'at. So inside the bina, you have the yud of the chokhmah. You have the bina itself, and you have what the bina gives birth to, which is what is called the da'at, which is the ben. So the da'at essentially is the birth, is the offspring, is the creation of the bina, the yehud of the bina and the chokhmah. Now, that birth that is called the da'at is essentially an essence of its own. The da'at is one of the part of the mohin. That's one of the part of the moach of the brain, right? Which is chokhmah bin and that is of its own. Now, if it is of its own, so we need to understand better what is the ben in the word bina. The ben in the word bina is essentially what is called the da'at elyon, which is the da'at or the purpose of the chokhmah and the purpose of the bina that is within the chokhmah and within the bina, that is called the da'at elyon, the upper da'at. That when it consolidates itself, it now prepares the bina with what is called ben, that will give birth to the Ben, which is called the Da'at. So the Da'at itself is made of the Chokhmah and of the Binah. But it has in it as a blueprint for its birth and its creation, okay, what is called the Da'at Elyon. And what is the Da'at Elyon? Is the Da'at Elyon is the purpose of the Chokhmah that is within the Chokhmah, and the purpose of the Binah, which is inside the Binah. Every Chokhmah has in it a purpose, because a Chokhmah, as a Chokhmah alone, it can exist. But when you're inside the system, then the system by default means that inside the Chokhmah there has to be a purpose. The same thing inside the Binah. And these purposes are called the Da'at Elyon. Then this Da'at will absorb everything from above, so from the Chokhmah and the Binah, okay? And essentially, it's carrying the Da'at Elyon, because if it's the Da'at, it has to have a blueprint that is called the Da'at Elyon. And it will start now showering all this wisdom, all this light in the lower Sefirot, which is the 5 Ksavot, the 6 Ksavot, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And that is called Da'at Tachton, the lower Da'at. So the Da'at Elyon is the aspect of the Da'at that gives birth to the Da'at itself. And the Da'at Tachton is what the Da'at gives to the Sefirot under it. Yes.
This is Rabbi Shimon's Hidush?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Can you repeat for a second, Rabbi, the level of the dot at Tachton? What happens is the dot Elyon, the dot which is created with the dot Elyon, gives power or gives dot to the Sefirot under. What, can you explain that concept again?
Basically, yeah. Look, imagine a waterfall system, right? Where Akadosh Baruch Hu shines his will, okay, as the source of everything, right? This will, in order for it to get to the humans the way Hashem created the world, it becomes chokhmah. It becomes a content. That content, okay, has a purpose because it's part of a system. That's the Da'at Elyon of the chokhmah. Then it goes to the Binah, and it's now, that content is organized, right? With a purpose. That's also the Da'at Elyon of the Binah. Now, the Binah itself has in it the Chokhmah, which is the Yud of the word Binah. What it is itself, which is the He, which is the Binah, right? Right? Because in the Yud Ke Vav Ke, Yud is Chokhmah, He is Binah, right? And it has in it the word Ben. And this Ben is essentially the Da'at that is about to be born from the Binah. And now the da'at is born. And as it's born and filled with everything that it received from the chokhmah and from the binah.
Right.
Yes. Now that da'at now will pour down to the sirot under it. Okay. Whether it's the chesed, the gevurah, the tiferet, the netzach, the hod, the yesod, right? It will take all that everything that it has received and passes on. The order flow continues. And that's called da'at tachton. It's not a da'at that receives, it's a da'at that gives. And now comes the Hidush of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He says, because the Pasuk says, Ki el de'ot Adonai. It's a Pasuk in Shmuel. Ki el de'ot Adonai. Hashem is the power, the God of the de'ot. If you look at, if the word de'ot is plural, right? Da'at or de'ah is singular. De'ot is plural. So says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, so we learn from that pasuk that there are two da'at. So which means that da'at, what are those two da'ot? And this is the Hidush of Rabbi Shimon. And the de'ot, there is a da'at that's called da'at elyon, that's the da'at that is focused on the differentiation and organization of chokhmah and binah. It's taking everything from above and focused on what it has received. And then you have another da'ah that basically organizes that chokhmah and applies it. It should go to the chesed, it should go to the gevurah. How much to the chesed, how much to the gevurah? And says says Rabbi Shimon that the da'at tachton goes as far as influencing and empowering all six sfirot under it. And he brings a pasuk that's in Mishlei that we will see Be'ezrat Hashem B'Sha'a Tova in Perek Kaf Dalet. U'beda'at hadarim yimal'u. With that, the rooms get filled. What are the rooms? The rooms are the six sfirot. And how do they get filled? With the da'at. And what is that da'at? This is a da'at tachton that is born in order to give. How come, says the Rabbi Shimon, is it only the da'at tachton that gives? Why isn't the da'at elyon giving? Because answers the Rabbi Shimon, because the da'at elyon is not an essence that gives, but an essence that receives, and it's attached to the chokhmah and the binah. So it really is never exposed to what's under it. Meaning that there is a da'at, there is within us, and I'll explain, there is within us the da'at, the ability. What is the da'at? Is the consolidation to a practical level and a purpose level of the wisdom and the knowledge that we have acquired. You learn something, you internalize it, you discern it, you analyze it the way you want, and then you bring purpose and practicality to it in a way that you can actually utilize it. That utility, or the way you will utilize it, is called the Da'at Tachton. And that's what revealed. How is that revealed? Simply because by using that Da'at, and through Chesed, or through Gevurah, or through Tiferet, or Netzach, or right, depending on each Midah, you're exposing that Da'at to the world through actions and a behavior. However, the Da'at Elyon, which is the analysis, the organization, the understanding of the information and the lessons you have learned, this really never gets exposed to your behavior. The only thing that gets exposed is what you use from it to turn it into an actionable behavior. But the theory behind it, the organization of the knowledge that you have received behind it, right? This stays within you. It stays intellectual. That's the Da'at Elyon. Essentially, what that's coming to teach us, that your Da'at must have two aspects to it. You have to use your Da'at to master the knowledge and the understanding and the practicality of what you're learning. That's one aspect of the Da'at. And the second aspect of the Da'at is, how do I take all this and implement it in my life? That aspect of the Da'at is what you expose outside. And this is the Da'at Tachton. This is the Hidush of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Are we good until now? I've lost everybody.
Phone got so hot, we got into it.
Well, what?
The phone started to get hot and suddenly stopped. It said emergency. It's also using the thing.
Okay. This is the Hidush of Rabbi Shimon.
Before the Hidush, we didn't know that there were two dads in the world.
Correct. Not what we didn't know, or we thought that it's one Da'at doing two things. Now says the Gaon, so the Da'at essentially is included of four, because the Da'at works between the Chokhmah and the Binah, that's two, but it also works between the Chesed and the Gevurah, the pipelines under, which is another two. So that means that the Da'at is sitting as a pivotal point of four axes. It has in it Chokhmah, it has in it Binah, but it also has in it Chesed and Gevurah. So two on top and two in the bottom. Says the Gaon, this is why Shlomo HaMelech puts this pasuk specifically after the two psukim that we've learned about the Chokhmah and the Binah. That's the two on top. And right after that, he gives us the pasuk which we read, and that's the reason I read it. Havinu peta'im orma, right? The simple learn shrewdness, uksilim, and the don't learners havinu lev, learn the heart. Yes, he says the havinu of peta'im and ksilim essentially refer to the midot, what's the chesed and the gvura, what's under. You understand? So pasuk bet berosh meromim ale darech bet netivot nitzava, that's chokhmah. Pasuk gimel leyad she'arim lefi karet mevo petachim tarona, that's bina. Then comes da'at, which Be'ezrat Hashem we will explain. Alechem ishi mekra vekoli el bnei adam, and it gives, and that receives all the Chokhmah gives now to Havinu Petayim Orma Uksilim Havinu's Lev. And he says, like this. We've addressed what Kri'ah means, right? Which is the Chokhmah. We've also addressed what Kol is, which is the Bina, the Tvuna and the Bina, right? That's in Shiur, the Psukim before. Now, what did we say? That within the Da'at, you have the Chokhmah and the Bina. Yes? Meaning the Da'at has to have in it Kri'ah and has to have in it a Kol. Yes? If it includes both. So he says this is what this pasuk tells us. Alechem ishim ekra. We find the kri'ah of the chokhmah. Vekoli el bnei adam, and we have the call of the bina. But in this specific da'at, it's a da'at that now has to receive, but also give, right? So he says, look, how do we know that this is transferred to the next pasuk? Havinu peta'im orma uksilim havinu lev. Yes? You're good? He says, look, it says it's written twice havinu. Right? In the pasuk he. Nachon? Havinu, says the Gaon, you have the word bina in it. Look at the word havinu. You have the word bina, but with an extra vav. Nachon? Take the word, the gematria is what of havinu? I'll let you interact so that I know you're listening. What is the gematria of the word havinu?
67 plus 6, 73.
73. Nachon? What is the gematria of chokhmah?
28 plus 20, 48 plus 5 is 53.
I'm sorry?
53.
How?
I missed the. Hold on, sorry.
How?
40 plus
So you
20,
do 45 plus 28
73.
is how much?
73.
73. So in the word havinu, you have the bina and you have the chokhmah. And why do you have it both twice? Because you need one for the chesed and one for the gevurah. continues the Gaon and teaches us this is the sword of that is called El Bam. El, God, Bam, in them. When is God in them? Yeah. When is God in them? When there is Chokhmah.
Where'd you get that from?
What? The El Bam?
Elbam.
In a second, I'll tell you. Write it down and trust me. When it says El Bam is when God is in them. When is God in them? When you have the Binah and the Chokhmah as one, right? That is transferred by the Da'at to the Chasadim. Now, if you make the gematria of El Bam, El is 31, Bam is 42, 73. So when is God within you? When you're able to bring down the Chokhmah and the Binah to a practical level and purpose, and apply it in your midot, whether it's midat chesed, in the kav of the chesed, or in the kav of the gvura. And says the Gaon, Davar Nifla, he says this is the sword of the letters that are chaser and that are the words that are chaser umale in the Torah. We have words in the Torah that are chaser, that are missing a letter. For example, shalom can be written without a vav, or it can be written with a vav. Yeah, and sometimes we have male. For example, Yaakov is written without a vav, but sometimes it's written with a vav. Right? The Chachmei Asot tell us when is Yaakov written with a vav. Yaakov with a vav is when Mashiach will come. It's the vav of Eliyahu Navi. So that is when we this is the Torah tells us that we have words that are Chachamim tell us we have words that are malé, and we have words that are chaser, right? De l'autre côté, ici. So says the Gaon. Mechila. And what does that represent? Al pi Kabbalah. Chaser ze olam hazeh. It's a word that in this word here is imperfect. It's a word that's always missing something. Malé ze olam haba. Malé, that is when you have you're fully with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? So olam hazeh, physicality is the words that are chaser in the Torah, the words that are missing a letter in the Torah. And the word that are complete is referring to the ideal world of when Mashiach will come. So he says like this. He says, El Bam, when are you complete? When are you elevated to a spiritual world and a world of shlemut? When El is Vam, when God is within you. Meaning when the letters are filled, when the words are filled with the letters, when you are filled with Chokhmah and Binah, and you bring it down to practicality and purpose, God is with you and you're complete. And he says it's very, very interesting. What are the letters that are Shalem or Chaser? Do you know? There's 4 letters in the Torah that will be omitted or added. the Yud, the Vav, the He, and the Aleph. All four Otiyot are the letters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have the letters of Ekyeh, and you have the letters of Yud Ke Vav Ke. These are the only letters that are omitted or added.
Can you repeat the letters, please?
Aleph, He, Vav, and Yud. So, yeah, meaning how can you be Shalem? How can you be complete? Only when those letters are added to your essence. Only when your Yud Ke Vav Ke and the Ekyeh are with you. When the letters of the name of God are added to your behavior, then you are complete. And how are those letters of God added to your behavior? Those letters of God are the letters of the Chokhmah that are created by the Sefer, Sipur veSofer. And that's what Shlomo HaMelech tells us, according to the Gaon. That's what he teaches us in the word Havinu in the next pasuk, which we'll learn Be'ezrat Hashem. And this is what the Da'at does. So the Da'at essentially, in the structure of the psukim inside this perek, sits perfectly after the Chokhmah and the Binah, because it's the Da'at that receives, right? So compared to that, to the first psukim, it's called Da'at Elyon, tells us the Rabbi Shimon. But to Havinu in the pasuk next, right after in pasuk A, is Da'at Tachton. And how is Da'at Tachton? The definition of Da'at Tachton is when the Da'at goes actually down to fill in, okay, the vessels of the Sfirot. And this is what you find in the word Havinu. In the word Havinu, you have the word Binah, and with the Vav, Gematria 73, which is Gematria of Chokhmah, which is Gematria El Bam, which means that you fill in the El Bam, the El, the name of God, the God in Bam Inden, and what is God is Havaya and Ekyeh. Yes, Brian.
Can we get practical for a second? How do we how do we explain how there are two people who have the same tzinorot of chokhmah coming from through the letters coming down? How is one able to process different or better than another one?
First of all, nobody has the same tzinorot.
Nobody has the same tzinorot.
No. Let's start with that. Number two, every spiritual DNA is different. Everyone is made of certain letters, and those letters are shining depending on your behavior and what you learn in different ways. So nobody is the same. This is why everybody has an obligation to be mehadesh, to bring out their own hidushim, right? And when Rabbi Shimon says you will be asked in Olam Haba, what were you mehadesh? The real question in our way for us to understand is, what have you accomplished with the letters Hashem has given you as a spiritual DNA in this world? Which are the words? What are the hidushim that you brought out with your own letters?
So I didn't finish the last year. I guess that's where you touched on, but I thought that it was everybody has the ability to.
Everybody has the ability in their own way.
In their own way.
Yes, the Chokhmah is accessible to all. And the Binah is obviously more personal, it's individual. But yes, but the pipelines are different. And what you receive and how you receive it is specific to you.
Got it. So that's why we'll have two different, because of the pipes are different. So now the ability to process, the ability to process that Chokhmah, it's also different. It's also
for sure. That's for sure different. That's the Binah. That's super individual.
Right.
And this is the pshat of, or this is the sword of Shiv'im Panim La Torah. There's 7 facets to the Torah, meaning we can all listen to the same thing, know exactly what has been said, but process it differently. Why? Because our processor is built with different letters of the Torah that is specific to each and every one of us. So we will process it different. We're going to understand Hidushim different, and some stop there, and some continue. So the Avodata Adam, okay, the way you infuse yourself with the light of the Chokhmah, which is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the sort of Ata Kadosh, you are Kadosh, Veshimcha Kadosh, you are holy, Veshimcha Kadosh, and your names are holy, which is the letters of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu of the Torah and his Shemot, okay? Ugdoshim bechol yom yalelu chasela, and the Gdoshim, which is Am Yisrael and the Malachim, yalelu chasela. Hakel Baruch Ata Hashem Hayala Kadosh. Are we good?
Why the letters Yud Ke Vav Ke, and also you put the Aleph?
Aleph is Ekie. The name of the Shem HaKadosh of Keter is Ekie.
Ah, okay.
Right? And then that's all there is. And you understand? Now, if you want to go far, it will be cute. Yeah, Aleph is Yud, Yud Vav. This being said, so he says like this. He says, now let's apply the word Ekra and the word Kol. He says Ekra is referring to the Chokhmah, like we said. Kol is referring to the Binah. But not Mechila. There is another sword in the word in the Kelvam. We said 73. The word Chesed is 72. But 72 with the Kolel is 73. Right? If you the 72 plus the word itself, Ima Kolel is 73. Okay? That's the Chaser and the Maleh. When you add the Kolel, you're Memaleh the Chesed, and that's 73. The biggest Chesed you can do is by filling yourself and filling your midot with chokhmah and binah. That's the sort of chesed. So he says like this. He says, since the chokhmah essentially, although until now we were talking about the access to chokhmah, but for the da'at, what's the furthest to him? And the chasadim going down, it's the chokhmah. Nachon? And the closest to the chasadim, to the da'at, that's giving to the chasadim, is the binah. I'll go back to that in a second because I don't want to confuse. But so okay. But I just finished and I'll go back to it. So Ekra, to call, right, is referring to the Chokhmah because you call When you call, we said that what? You connect to something, right? To get close to. But a voice awakes itself and goes out. A voice, the voice does not have a direction. A kri'ah, a call has a direction, but a voice doesn't. A voice is a voice. It's out there for everybody. So the kri'ah is towards the chokhmah, which is specific. That alechem ishim ekra. But when it comes to the chasadim, which essentially it's bnei adam, that's the kol. Bnei adam in plural, right? Bnei adam, and we're going to get into the definition of ben adam, and ish, be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, but first, the position of the word kol and the word ekra. Good. I just want to summarize before. This is in a very simple way what the Gaon teaches us in the first part of his Hidush on this pasuk. He taught us that the da'at has two places, two facets to it, two essences to it. One that is connected to the Chokhmah and the Binah, receiving it, to process it, organize it. And then there's the Da'at that turns this knowledge into practical behavior. Then he tells us that this is how you infuse yourself with the presence of God. This is how you complete what you're missing by taking the Chokhmah and the Binah and bringing it down to practical actions and purpose. When the Binah and the Chokhmah together becomes Havinu, and it's talking to the Ptil and the Ksil, to the ones that are missing, that are empty, that are right, and you fill those essences with the Chokhmah and the Binah, which are essentially the letters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how do you tap in to it? Through the Kri'ah, by calling, by wanting the Chokhmah, by calling for the Chokhmah, which is specific to the Chokhmah. And the Binah is less specific. The Binah has to be spread through the call. The Da'at has to spread the Binah in the Chasadim with the Chokhmah, right? But it spreads it out. So essentially, the Chokhmah is specific to the Chacham, but the Binah can be applied to everybody. Because the Binah is the call, and the call is not specific. The call itself, right? The sound of the voice itself. Versus, yeah? When I say call, I mean the call in Hebrew, not calling. I just realized that it's the same thing. I don't want to confuse. Yes? Calling, kri'ah, it's specific. And if it's specific to the ones that can relate to it. That's for the tzaddikim. That's for the chachamim. That's for the Talmidei Chachamim. That's the Chokhmah. But, yes, but the Binah, which is a simple call in Hebrew, a sound of the voice, a cry, a scream, the scream is non-specific. The scream is going everywhere. And that's the Binah that essentially can be shared with anyone. Yes, it's born within you individually, but when you share it, you can share it easier with others than what you can do with the Chokhmah. Yes or no?
Summary.
That was a summary. Okay. A summary of the summary.
You know why I need a summary? Because I was using call rather than kol.
Evanti. So again,
The kol.
there's like this. Shlomo HaMelech uses the word kri'ah and the word kol in Hebrew. Kri'ah, which is calling, and kol, which is a voice, the sound of the voice, right? Crying, screaming, whatever you want, okay? Now, when you call someone, you formulate some, right? A specific message to bond.
That's a
But when
kriya.
that's kri'ah.
A kriya
But-
gets you closer to chokhmah.
That's yes. Kriya is chokhmah. How do you know kriya is chokhmah? Because the kriya calls upon us in pasuk aleph.
Right.
However, from our perspective, the kriya is specific to the chokhmah. Me, the receiver. I'm coming to differentiate between the first pasuk in the perek and this pasuk. Because it's very important. The first pasuk, it says it is exactly the opposite. The first one is the kriya is calling out, right? Right? So meaning it's calling you, it's out there, and the tevuna creates a voice within you, which is individual, right? Now that's from a perspective of the chokhmah and the binah to the individual. Now we're talking from a perspective of the individual himself, right? The kri'ah, the call at that point is very specific for the individual.
It has a specific direction.
Correct. So that's ishim. That's ishim. That's why we're talking about ish, which is of a high level, and we'll talk about it in the next shiur. It's ishim. Ish is at the high level of the title of man. But when it comes to the binah is the call. Call is non-specific. Call in Hebrew, right? Because you scream out. You don't call someone in English. You scream. It's a non-specific. So if it's not specific, it can reach anybody. And this is why it says El Bnei Adam, to men. It can go to all mankind, meaning the binah, you can share and spread it with anybody. Now, yes, now, how does that translate into to us to understand? When you learn something, it's specific to you. But once you've processed it and you made it your own, that's when you can share it. You cannot share something that is not yours, that you didn't understand fully. So that's why when it comes to the Chokhmah that's specific, it's talking about Ekra and it's talking about Ish. And when we're talking about the Binah, which is the call in Hebrew, right? We're talking about Bnei Adam. I think that's the first part of the pasuk. The pshat of the gown on the pasuk. But I think it's enough for today. Bezrat Hashem. Any questions on what we have tried to learn?
Spectacular.
I think we have lost Dan along the way.
No, I'm here. Just I'm really not feeling well.
Okay, refresh.